What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic. I'm sitting here with my PE leader from 7 years ago and my good friend Mick Bucaro, White Sox fanatic. Soxtober is back, baby. I can't wait to have you on the show today. You, Adam Saleh, and so many others. I can't wait to discuss baseball throughout the whole summer. Soxtober is back. Mick, what has it been like for you so far, having this rejuvenated White Sox team in Chicago?
Well, Mike, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. Hello to every fan out there. It's been a good off season so far. First time we made the playoffs this last season since 2008. So it was pretty exciting. Definitely not the exit that we wanted. But this postseason has been pretty good to us. But I think it can be better.
Definitely. And I wanted to get right into it, talk about the 2020 season, how you felt about it. Luis Robert, Yohan Moncada, who had a really rough year, but with having COVID, I actually, I don't like to give people a pass based off of things like that, but I'm going to, because it's so new and the fatigue that lasts with it, I gave him a pass. But guys like Madrigal, Robert, not seeing Kopech, what does that all mean for you going into 2021? And do you think they're ready to play at an elite level?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that we learned about this offseason, and one is that Giolito is a bona fide ace. I think he's one of the best pitchers in the major leagues. He's definitely got a top 5 changeup in all of baseball, and he's got that hunger to win. He's one of those guys that I like to see. He's very into it. He's very passionate. It's not just a game to him. It's, win at all costs. We also got to see a lot of really great glimpses from Luis Robert. He had that one tough stretch where he went, I think he went 2 for 52 and had, 30 strikeouts or something like that. That's expected. He's a rookie, and rookies go through that all the time. Madrigal, we saw a lot of good things. He's the contact hitter that we saw, that we drafted. He's got a lot to work on with base running and defense, but it's really great that those are the things that he needs to work on because those are easy fixes.
Right.
Other than that, Dallas Keuchel was a great signing, and he will continue to be a good signing. Jose Abreu MVP, well-deserved. He was just a monster this year. Tim Anderson is one of the most electrifying baseball players you could ask for. He's just so fun to watch.
Definitely.
And there was a lot of bad this year too, but I like to focus on the positive because I think it's an upward trend. So
right. And I feel like personally, I don't know how you fully feel about, they haven't spent that much money on this offseason, but they spent a lot more than years prior. And I think the bad that we saw, the right field issues, the fifth starter in the rotation. I mean, Michael was out, but we're hoping we get him back. We're not sure what's going to happen with that. Is it Garrett Crochet or Crochet?
Yeah.
Crochet?
All
right.
Yeah.
So seeing him and being a lefty at that reminds me a little of like a Randy Johnson kind of guy. And it's just honestly the force he has and the power he has coming from underneath the belt. I mean, that is just insane. And we haven't seen that in so long. Adding guys like him, you add Adam Eaton back. Maybe you have a new, solid leadoff hitter if he continues to produce. I think all the holes were really filled. Lance Lynn. I liked the Lance Lynn signing, but I also like Dan Dunning. It was hard to see him go. I think they just added a lot of really good pieces. And I don't know about you. I don't think they're done. I thought Quintana was going to return. I thought that would be something really interesting. He followed Madden. Why? I have no idea. The only case I can make is Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, but it is what it is. But I wanted to ask you, is there anyone special right now you would really go out on a limb and grab? There's guys like Trevor Bauer, asking a lot of money right now. You just saw George Springer. What was it, like $160 million for 6 years?
6 year, 150 mil, so 25 a year, which, that's worth it. Knowing the White Sox, they're a cheap team. They've always been a cheap team, and we've spent a lot this offseason, but we also had a lot come off the books last season. So even with all of the signings and acquisitions that we had this year, this offseason, we're still not at the amount of money that we spent last year, and nowhere near the highest payroll we've had, which I believe was in 2013 or something like that. So you're right. The Sox still do have flexibility. I think that, in an ideal world, Bauer would be amazing. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be awesome. I wouldn't mind, actually. I think my biggest piece now would be Nelson Cruz. I think Nelson Cruz at the DH spot would probably be the best thing for this team. The Sox have a history of signing old DHs and they don't produce, but Nelson Cruz really likes guaranteed rate field. So if you give him 82 games playing there, or 81 games rather, he's going to mash. Give him, 1 year, 15 million. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Right. And I guess that kind of leads to my next question for you. It wasn't on our list, but Eloy Jimenez, what are you doing with him? What do you see him as? Now, as a Cubs fan, I know what it's like to have a left fielder who is incompetent in the outfield. Kyle Schwarber was atrocious. A big part of that was Kyle was mainly drafted as a catcher. So, him having to progress to that, he actually did a lot better than a lot of people think. If he was a natural born left fielder, I'd be, this kid's awful. But with Eloy, what do you really expect from him? What do you think his future is with the White Sox? Do you see him? I know you said you want Nelson Cruz, but do you see him just moving to DH at some point in his career full time?
Yeah, and so the problem with that is that he's a young guy. I mean, he's what? I think he's 23 or 24, which
I
is,
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, like that's my age, and I'm already aching and breaking. My physical form is just not great at all. But he's a kid, and I don't believe that putting him in the DH spot would be good for him, and it wouldn't be good for the team because one, this guy, he wants to play, and it's almost as like a punishment, saying like you're not really good at this.
Right.
And we haven't really given him an opportunity to improve. Is he going to be like Jim Edmonds or Adam Jones and have a gold glove? Probably not. But is he going to be able to track down the ball well and make some good plays? I think so. I more so see him as he's a 40 home run plus hitter. He's a 100 RBI kind of guy. And he can also bat 300. Like that is the capability of Eloy Jimenez every day, or every season rather. And last year we saw a great example of that. He mashed last year, and he's going to continue to do that. Give him a full season, and I guarantee you he's going to be one of the highest offensive producing players in the MLB for sure.
Yeah. And I also think Luis Robert being out there, it's not kind of like a safety net, but it most definitely is at the very same time, because this man is covering the field like nobody we've really ever seen in recent years. I mean, this man is a Gold Glove winner in his rookie year. You could say, oh, it's just a 62-game season, it doesn't mean anything, but it does. At the end of the day, it does. What Darvish did, what Robert did, Abreu, and everybody. As much as I hate to see a Sox player win an MVP award, Jose Abreu, without a doubt, earned it.
And to get into that conversation, I really do kind of resent it was only a 60-game season. Everybody had the same advantages and disadvantages of that season. Everybody had the limitations or the advantages that every other player had. And, we saw Darvish and Jose Abreu and all these other players really excel. But granted, I do like to say that for a lot of players that struggled last season, it's also understandable because, everybody, baseball or not, we're all struggling right now. And, it's hard to be away from your family for that long, especially in these dire circumstances. So, I understand that. I think Luis Robert is a freak of nature. I watched every single Sox game. And the only thing is he strikes out a lot. And if that's your only concern with a ball player, he's superstar potential. Right. He hit a ball in one of the playoff games. I think it was 484 feet, and it was just like I didn't even believe it happened. So it's scary. It's a scary scenario for a lot of the AL Central to be playing against him.
Right. And my thing with him, and not to like make comparisons of the Cubs this entire time, but he reminds me a lot of Javier Baez in a sense to where the potential is there offensively. It's definitely there. You definitely see bits and pieces of it. The defense is natural. You see it. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be teach. It doesn't need to be enhanced. It's already there. So really, it's just I think it's going to be a mental game for him. I personally think a lot of it is going to come down to having fans in the stands. You saw Javier Baez, a lot of them were saying he's done, he's toast, he doesn't deserve the money. He does. The big thing, and he even said it himself, is when you're in your head, and you played baseball as well, the same team I did in high school. When you don't have any fans there, it's literally you can have a conversation with yourself in your head. Like
Yeah.
you can hear everybody else, you can hear everything with all those fans, 40,000 plus. I mean, you just focus on you and the ball. And with fans, I think Luis Robert, Javier Baez, and so many others are just going to be a lot better. Whereas I think you, Darvish, a lot of people hate the trade right now. I love it. I love it just because once fans come back, I don't think Darvish is going to be as good as he was. I think that was what his flaw was. I think that's a problem for him. Some people, like you said, work better. Some people don't. So it's kind of like if you had a good season, that's amazing for you. But if you didn't, it's kind of like it's whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And to kind of just touch on the Yu Darvish trade a little bit, I actually really thought, one, I thought the Cubs should have definitely traded him. But
Right.
everybody's like, oh, it wasn't, we got a bunch of no names. I was like, that's not necessarily true. You got 4 players who are under the age of 20 or at the age of 20 who are expected to play in 2 or 3 years from the Padres organization. And what are the Padres historically known for? They're known for getting really good prep talent and developing the hell out of that prep talent. So if you're getting 4 young guys from the Padres organization, more likely than not, they're going to be worth your money and time. So
Right.
I'm not really concerned. Yeah, I'm not really concerned. Um, the Padres have one of the best scouting and development apparatuses in the MLB. So when you make a trade with them, it's going to be worth it. So watch out for those guys. They got some pretty good talent out of that trade. It's going to be a couple years down the road, but
Right.
that's what the Cubs are doing now. They're not in a win now scenario.
Not at all. I mean, personally, I'm gonna be the guy that says it right now. I truly do believe we still have a chance to win the division. Now, win
Yeah.
now as in we're in the World Series. It's the same concept of the Chicago Bears. You can definitely make the playoffs, but it literally means nothing to me right now. And the thing with that trade is, we have too many shortstops. We have Ed Howard, Baez, Horner. People don't understand what a young 17-year-old shortstop can not only become an outfielder, become a third baseman. They could rotate to anything at such a young age. They're not set in stone. They're also worth so much. We can get so many other prospects from half of these guys. We can get things in return. And with Miguel Amaya, Howard, I don't know if you know all these guys, but
Yeah, I do.
like they're 2022, 2023, it's the perfect time. We're going to have a boatload of the Cubs, without a doubt, I think are going to have one of the best farm systems in baseball within the next 3 years, especially you trade guys like Bryant. I don't expect them to trade Rizzo out of a respect kind of thing, but the way they just handled John Lester, all bets are off with me. I really don't know what's going on. Couldn't even offer him $5 million. But it's just one of those things that I find really interesting to where, and I want to talk to you about the Rick Hahn situation because now we're talking about Jed Hoyer. Jed Hoyer, this is his rebuild. So there's no disrespect towards John Lester. This is his team now, and that's how I see it. And for Rick Hahn, I wanted to ask you, is it luck or is he elite? Because there's a lot of people that say, well, when you trade Chris Sale, when you trade Adam Eaton, you're obviously going to get elite guys like Giolito in return and Moncada and so many others. Were those elite moves he made, or is this just him having prospects pan out? Personally, I used to hate on the guy, but I'm coming around.
It's a little bit of both. And so I'll say that, it's very difficult to quantify success, especially when it comes with prospects in baseball, because baseball is a wild game. And, you could have a guy that was sweeping floors last year win World Series MVP. So it's this weird game. I will say that in respects to Hoyer, he is kind of given that autonomy and, the ability to build his team. Rick Hahn is not. in
Right.
in a sense. Everybody knows that Jerry Reinsdorf is a very hands-on owner, and I guess my theory is that he knows he's getting old, and he wants to win a World Series. He's kind of lost interest with the Bulls. He's given it to his son, but he wants to win a World Series, and he does have a lot of say in a lot of the decisions. Tony La Russa, that was not Rick Hahn. That wasn't even an idea in Rick Hahn's head.
I
He
felt
would
so bad.
he would have had AJ Hinch. He would have had 10 other guys before Tony La Russa.
Right.
He did get his pitching guy though, Ethan Katz, who I think is the best off-season hire for the White Sox. Ethan Katz is a fantastic pitching coach, and he helped Giolito fix his mechanics. I've seen some video of Dylan Cease's mechanics this offseason have drastically changed and improved under Katz's wing. So I would say that for Hahn, though, he's made some bad moves. He's made some bad moves. And every GM, you cannot find a GM that has not made a bad move. But he turned Jose Quintana into Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease. And
Right.
Eloy Jimenez is going to be one of the best offensive outputters in MLB. He turned Adam Eaton, literally just Adam Eaton, into Lucas Giolito, Dane Dunning, and Reynaldo Lopez. And he turned Chris Sale into Moncada and Kopech. So right there, and then you have the international signings. He signed Abreu. He signed Robert. He got Yasmani Grandal.
And didn't he just grab Cespedes too?
Yoelqui Cespedes, yes. So
that kid's a beast.
And the other great thing is that he, in these past decade or whatever that he's been GM, he's really cultivated a relationship with Cuban players.
Right.
So every Cuban player wants to go to the White Sox. Oscar Colas he deferred being taken this year so he could be taken next year from the White Sox. Like that to me is good. Would I say he's the best GM ever? No. But I think with what he's working with and the financial limitations that he's been set by Reinsdorf, he's done a fantastic job, and he's putting out a baseball team that is 3 in the power rankings now. So
I don't see how they're not 1, but
I mean the Dodgers are like they're the evil empire. I don't think the Yankees are as good as everybody says they are. But
for the Yankees, and I wanted your opinion on that. Everybody has the Yankees coming out of the American League right now, and because of their off-season acquisitions, they really didn't do anything. When you really look down on it, it's they added DJ LeMahieu. No, they had DJ LeMahieu. They just kept him. They really didn't. They added some pitcher too, I think. I forgot who they added, but it just wasn't what the White Sox did. You add Lance Lynn, and 2020 doesn't count. Guess what? Lance Lynn was top 7 in Cy Young candidate. So, I mean, it does count. It does mean something. And back to making it a Cubs thing. For me, your 2020 was my 2015. It was where all the guys are coming up. We're all going to establish something, and we're all going to create something special. Now, the only flaw I think with that was you knew you were going to fire your manager. You know what I mean? Mike was not the guy, or Rick was not the guy, sorry, obviously. And having Tony La Russa in the first year this year, I think is going to be a little difficult. I think there's going to be a little moments where, it looks bad, but I think in the long run, it could work out. I just hope it does. I hope, whatever political statements he has, whatever he believes, he's not an idiot. He's not going to bring that into the clubhouse.
No.
It's definitely not going to be the way people think him and Anderson are going to get into a fist fight. None of that is going to happen. It's going to be professional. At the end of the day, you do have to respect, even though he is a drunk. I'm going to say that. I don't care. It's going to come up again. 3 World Series championships with 3 different teams. That's no question about it. I think this is exactly what the team needs. They don't need a Joe Madden. My thing with Joe Madden was always everything's fun. And with Matt Nagy as well. I know you're not that big on football, but
no,
Club dub is fine. All that is fine. Respect. I got the hat right here, the respect us hat, and that's fine and all. But once you start losing games, everybody gets pissed off. Everybody gets pissed off at the hippie coach who wants to be everyone's friend. Tony La Russa is not going to be that. Tony La Russa is going to force Eloy to play defense. He's going to make him look bad until he starts looking good. And I honestly think it's going to be a lot better than people think it is. I think they're in a good position right now. I don't know how you feel about Tony.
Yeah, so I mean, with Nagy, yeah, I completely agree with you. Just a quick note, he should have been gone after this year. They should have just cleaned house, but
Definitely.
this is a baseball podcast, not a football. Maybe some other time. But
Right.
with Tony La Russa, at the end of the day, he knows how to win. And people say, "Oh, well, he's old and he's like outdated." And I was like, he is the one that created the modern bullpen.
Right.
He's the one that started so many of the things that have become custom to today's management, managing style. And people don't give him credit for that. You're right. This man has won 3 World Series with 3 different teams. And he is a Hall of Fame coach. He is one of the most winningest coaches in all of baseball history. He understands all of these things. And a funny anecdote is I actually DM'd Jeff Passan on Twitter, and I was just like, yeah, thanks for. He shared a story about Tony La Russa and stuff, and he responded and he said, yeah, I don't think there's going to be problems in the clubhouse. They're all professionals.
Right.
They're all professionals. And at the end of the day, they all want to win. And what Tony La Russa is going to do is Rick Renteria was not the greatest manager. He had a lot of talent. And, he had a lot of talent at his disposal, so it allowed for mistakes. But La Russa, what he's going to do is he's going to see everybody's weaknesses and go back to basic fundamentals to cure those weaknesses. For Madrigal, Madrigal was terrible at base running this year. What do you think?
It looks pretty bad.
It was terrible. Like, no sugarcoating it. It was garbage, and it looked like he looked nervous out there. La Russa's going to make sure that that's the first priority on Madrigal's list in spring training. Right. Eloy with defense. A lot of these guys, Tim Anderson with defense, and he's improved steadily, but still, a lot of basic things and fundamental things that our team needs to improve on. La Russa's going to do that. And he's an old school Italian, and old school Italians are no bullshit. And he's going to make sure that it's no bullshit. And he's going to say, we're going to freaking win, because I'm 74 years old and I'm not coming back unless we're winning the whole damn thing.
Right.
So with that attitude going in, I'm excited.
Right. And I think he's really going to narrow out who wants to win and who doesn't, especially with the signings. I mean, I know he's not going to make huge acquisitions and he's not a part of the decision making. But, you grab guys like Lance Lynn over Dan Dunning. It's kind of one of those things where you want the experience right now because you don't want these kids to hate their manager or hate to be there or request a trade. Guys like Lance aren't going to do that. They're going to do their job. And I'm not sure if I brought this up or not. For that, I see Lance Lynn as your John Lackey signing. That's how I look at it for the Cubs. He's that guy. He's not going to be your ace. He's not going to be top 3 in your rotation. But when it comes to Soxtober, and your back's against the wall in game 4 or 5, John Lackey's going to go out there for you. Lance Lynn's going to go out there for you, and they're going to do what they do. And that's all it's going to come down to.
He's going to shove it. And, Lynn's a good, reliable 3-starter, and he would be a 2 or 1 on, 15 teams in the MLB right now.
Oh, definitely. And based on the Orioles right now. Yeah,
and so he brings several things to what the Sox didn't have at the third starting pitcher role. One, consistency. He's going to go out there. He's going to give you 6 innings each game, and then maybe 7, 8, or 9, once in a blue moon. But you're going to get that 6 from him. You know what to expect, and you know what type of game it's going to be from him, which is like the ultimate quality that people want in a pitcher, specifically at the back end of the rotation. Second off, he brings the experience, and he has experience with Tony La Russa. So he also has playoff experience. I believe he has World Series experience, 2011. So he brings credibility to the staff and help with the younger guys. So I loved that trade. I was a huge Dane Dunning fan. Granted, he's coming off a lot of injuries and little MLB experience. What he showed us was great. but we need something more right now, and that's what we're getting with Brantley. So I'm excited. He's a big beefy guy, and that's we kind of need that. So
Definitely.
we need that
These guys are
personality.
skinny, dude. These guys in your starting rotation, Kopech, Crochet, they're skinny.
Yeah,
But
skinny.
it's one of those things I really wanted to ask you because you do mention I was a big Dylan Cease fan from the jump, and a lot of people thought he looked like me, so I was like, I can't wait to get this guy's jersey. He's gonna be a Cub for life. Boom, dreams crushed. Theo screwed me. Um, it's one of those things though where even I recognize, Dylan Cease with Tommy John. You got Kopech. Crochet had a scare. I don't remember if anything came from that. It was just a contusion, if I'm not mistaken.
He's fine. I don't even think he had any surgery or anything. It was just like a precautionary thing.
But when you're throwing 100 miles per hour plus for 6 to 7 innings, that's your goal. Does it make you worry that you already have Liam Hendricks and Aaron Bummer? Wouldn't you just want to throw Michael and Garrett in the bullpen and then try to acquire guys, try not, bums, but guys like Jake Arrieta for cheap? I thought Jose Quintana and others, and you could just make the lineup with that and just hope Dylan Cease becomes one of those aces, because there's a lot of injuries going into this, and going 7 innings plus, 100 miles per hour is their goal. I think that was one of the biggest flaws of the White Sox pitching staff. Allowing them to do that, it was basically flexing it. I don't know if you got the same vibe. It was basically like, oh, look what we can do. And it was like, I love the new pitching signings from you guys, staff-wise, because these guys, I truly believe, are going to fix that. Lucas Giolito, like you said, one of the worst pitchers in the minors at one point, became
in the majors.
Right, and in the majors. I was at one of his games against the Yankees in like 2019. It was rough. I was watching Gleyber Torres just light it up. And the things I've noticed in a span of, even without spring training, you could say it's in a span of 6 months, like of actual baseball playing. He has changed the narrative. He has changed the whole dynamic of his pitching abilities. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, on what you think is the future of Michael and Garrett. Like, are they going to be in the bullpen most of the time? Do you think you see them just being full-time starters?
Yeah, so I think that just to touch on Giolito's brilliance, he basically, it was 2018, he was statistically the worst pitcher in the MLB. I think he had a 6.50 ERA and just, getting rocked. And so the problem is that when he was pitching, I'm going to try and show it to you, but I don't have that much flexibility. He was extending his arm all the way back and focusing on his arm to bring the strength. And then he worked with Ethan Katz, and he short arms it now and relies on the guy's like 6'4", so
he
relies on his legs for his power. And then after he made those adjustments, he's a Cy Young candidate for 2 years in a row, and threw a no-hitter and almost threw a perfect game in a playoff. So the great thing is that Dylan Cease has made those exact same adjustments.
Exactly.
And he's working heavily with Katz, because Katz noticed, okay, Giolito was doing the same thing. Let's fix this. Dylan Cease, he can throw 100 miles an hour. People forget that. He can throw 100 miles an hour, and he has a wicked curveball. But with Kopech and Crochet's already there. He's shown that he can come to the big stage and just throw gas. And, he threw it in the playoffs, and nobody could hit him, right?
Right.
I share your concern with injury. And so I think that him and Kopech, I don't even think Kopech's going to be on the team starting. I think they're going to have him play some minor league games and have him start.
I definitely would. It's been, over a year and a half now?
Yeah, so he'd probably start AAA, doing 2 games, or like 5 games maybe starting. He's in a throwing program right now, so getting his arm ready and stuff like that. But Crochet, he's a bullpen piece, and I think that this offseason he's got the gas. We already know he's got the gas.
He's got the mechanics too, honestly.
Yeah, and the mechanics too. Like, he's there. He might need to just develop an off speed, so he's not a one-dimensional pitcher like Aroldis Chapman. But I think they'll both be bullpen, and if Kopech later in the season pushes himself to get to that 4-5 spot, he'll do it. Because I think that's ultimately what he wants. And Reynaldo Lopez, I don't really trust him to be in that 5 spot. So I think Kopech would come in and fill that void.
Right. That's why I'm thinking like, adding a Jake Arrieta or something like that, just for precaution, just
Yeah.
like a small term deal, nothing major. And it's one of those things where Ronaldo, I think, is the odd man out of that deal. He's, it depends what happens with Michael because of his injuries. I'm rooting for him. I love the kid. I know he
Yeah.
has some mental struggles, and that's fine. You see a lot of guys. Granke is the same way, but they can figure it out. They can talk to people. I think he'll be perfectly fine. But something I don't know if you just saw, I got notified while you were talking. That's why if you saw me look away. Michael Brantley is back in Houston. 2-year, $32 million deal. The Toronto Blue Jays stuff was fake. That's what I just got told, which is just insane to me. But I just wanted your thoughts on that because that just, I was certain to have a conversation with you about the Blue Jays and him today and how they acquired George Springer. But I guess all of that was a lie, and he's back in Houston.
So yeah, I mean, and again, like we always sympathize. Just to touch back, we always sympathize with players, and they're humans. They are not purely here for our entertainment, right? They exist outside of baseball, and so like with Michael Kopech and his struggles, or any baseball player, and even Tony La Russa with his struggles with alcohol and stuff like that. People are really hypercritical and really terrible.
Oh, dude, it's nasty.
And like a lot of it has come from White Sox fans, and it really disappoints me to see that. Um, and we need to, as members of the baseball community, we do need to be more understanding. Granted, there's a difference between business and understanding, right? This is a game to make money, but yeah, just to touch on, just a note on that. But with Brantley, that's weird, and that's kind of surprising.
Very weird.
One, I don't know why he would want to go back to Houston. Two, I don't know why the reports to Toronto were, I guess, falsified or, BS. That's so strange to me.
You were talking and I looked at it and I was like, no way. Like, that's a load of shit. But I looked into it. But my thing, I think, and it happens a lot, I think the deal is about to be finalized and somebody, and I know White Sox fans have an amazing experience with this, somebody in the house just blows it out of proportion and leaks it. And then I think that player gets frustrated and completely stops talks. I think that's the only thing that could have happened. Or I think maybe it was going to be finalized and then adding George Springer, he just doesn't want to go there. It's one of those things, you don't know really what the chemistry is with them or what's going on with that. It'll be interesting. I think the Blue Jays, regardless, I think in a couple years, I think they're not going to be a huge problem for the Sox, but they're going to make some noise. I think Bo Bichette, Vlad and Jr. and all of them, they're solid. If they get Trevor Bauer or something like that, I think they'll be something special.
Yeah, offensively they have all the pieces, and I think literally with any team in baseball, don't care if they're the Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, whoever, is pitching. Their pitching isn't great to go for like a long playoff run. So like in a couple of years, if they were able to develop young pitchers, yeah, they'd be scary. Or even if they signed Bauer or something like that, the Blue Jays, they're a cool team. My dad was a really big fan of the 92, 93 teams, Roberto Alomar, Joe Carter, all
Definitely.
guys. And yeah, they're an exciting young team to watch. But yeah, with all this contract stuff, I think the experience for White Sox fans is the White Sox make their big moves in silence. There is no chatter about it at all. Yasmani Grandal,
it just happens.
There wasn't even an inkling that they were talking to Yasmani Grandal, and they were like, "Oh, we would sign him to a 3-year deal." No inkling about Liam Hendricks. There was no rumors. There was maybe one or two that were like, "Yeah, he's interested," but it was from like a semi-credible source,
Right.
But then they boom sign him 4-year deal. So when I hear the Sox are in talks or playing the field on a player, I don't really believe it. Corbin Burns from Milwaukee is like the next.
Dude, I wanted to talk to you about that too. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
This is what bothers me. Now, as a Cubs fan, I see this guy play 30 times a year almost. I've never once walked into a Cubs and Brewers game and went, wow, that's who I'm afraid of. For the Brewers, if Christian Yelich isn't performing at an MVP level and Lorenzo Cain isn't there, I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah.
They're offering right now, the rumor is Nick Madrigal. And all of the Sox fans I see on Facebook, not you or Adam or anybody, of course, that I rely on, that's credible to me. All you guys hate it. And I completely agree. Here's my issue with that. That is not an ace. That is not a young guy. He's 27 years old, but with a pitcher, the best you're going to see right now, mechanic-wise, is what you're going to get. You might get the Jake Arrieta that have these spurts of just tapping into something. But what Nick Madrigal means to the White Sox sustained success, to me personally, and it's what I say to a lot of people, losing guys like Gleyber Torres, Eloy Jimenez, Dylan Cease, and just so many others to make these Jose Quintana, the Chapman trade needed to happen. It just did. To win the World Series, no question. But to lose your top prospects, people think just because all these guys are good right now, we're going to be fine for the next 5 years. It's not the case. It's really not, because then you're in a situation right now where I might lose Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, and Contreras all in one offseason next year. So for you, what do you think about potentially losing on Nick to anybody? To literally, if it was an ace or whoever, is Nick Madrigal untouchable in your eyes?
No, I don't think anybody's untouchable. I think that, every single player has a price. But at the end of the day, the Sox organization likes him, and they like him, and they drafted him for a reason. They said he is going to be our everyday second baseman. This is a kid who strikes out less than 5% of the time. He gets on base, and to be clear, he's just a pest. And the White Sox have not had a player that is a pest that will get on base when there is a 99.9% probability that he wouldn't get on base. And to have that at the bottom of a lineup, people don't understand this. To have a guy who can hit 300 plus at the bottom of a lineup and get on base is so priceless. It just it gets everything started. And for Corbin Burnes, I'd straight up say no, because this guy, he threw freaking 8 games last year in the AL Central, which no offense, or the NL Central, which no offense,
it is disgusting.
It's weak. It's a weak division. And the year before that, he had like an 8.9 ERA. So why would I, if I'm a GM, why would I trade Madrigal for Burnes when it's not even an even trade? I don't think Rick Hahn's that stupid. I think that the White Sox were in talks. This is not a official rumor, but this is just my speculation. I think the Sox were in talk with the Reds about Castillo and possibly Castellanos. If that were the case, yes, I would trade Madrigal, and I would probably trade, a Jared Kelly or something like that, and a couple other prospects for those guys, because that's worth it. Totally. But
Jared
for
Kelly,
Corbin Burnes?
Yeah, Jared Kelly, I wanted to touch base on you with too. For what you like, I follow him, but I'm not sure on the timetable right now. What is the timetable looking on for Jared Kelly? Because it's looking to me that you might not even need a 5th starter by 2022. Like, you won't need to have to go out and look for somebody. You might have that
guy. Jared Kelly, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any footage on him or anything like that, but he's a fantastic pitcher. We got him in the 2nd round, and he is a bona fide 1st-round talent. And, watching his stuff, he's not straight gas. He kind of reminds me of like not saying he's this level, but, a little bit of a Greg Maddux, where he's just
kind of guy.
94, 95, good changeup, good curveball, decent slider. But he knows he's good at location, and, that type of player is so great to have. I'm really high on Jared Kelly. I think that he's a fantastic draft pick, and I think he's going to be in the starting rotation. I wouldn't, probably 2022, 2023. Right. He'll at least get reps at the major league level in 2022. That's for sure. And you know what? He might even come up this year. we were surprised when Crochet came up last year and he started throwing gas, and he's, so,
Right.
Rick Hahn's now just like, whatever, man. If these guys can pitch, let's get them in there.
And that's a beautiful aspect, I think, that not a lot of people think about. Everybody thinks the timetable, you go on MLBprospects.com, think, oh, we're not going to see him for 3 years. It's not the case. Nico Horner, I think, is a beautiful comparison for that. Drafted him in 2018, saw him in 2019. It's one of those things where when they're ready, they're ready. And you just have to trust the organization in taking these chances. And sometimes they look horrible and sometimes they surprise you. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing the next year, whether it's good or bad. It's just one of those things where if the time is right and it's the right time, right situation, you just throw him in there. And Jared Kelly, honestly, right now, put him in the bullpen. I mean, Ronaldo Lopez, all those guys are no better. No, without question. I mean, right now I would take Jared Kelly over Ronaldo Lopez in a heartbeat. Just for like game on the line, I have to win this game or something crazy happens. I would take Jared over Ronaldo.
Yeah, and so it's really great because we have, I think, the second ranked bullpen in all of the MLB right now. You have Liam Hendricks as a closer who could arguably go 2 to 3 innings because
he's like a Chapman kind of guy.
That guy's he's just a freaking badass, man. He chews nails and he just wants to win. He in his interview, I think he said he's a sociopath. So he just wants to defeat you, which I love that in a player. Then you have Aaron Bummer, who over the past 2 to 3 years has consistently been one of the best left-handed relievers in all of baseball.
Definitely.
You have Cody Hewer and Matt Foster, who both of those guys had fantastic years last year. And then you have Evan Marshall, and every single one of these guys was nails for the White Sox bullpen. And that's also another invaluable thing is every single team that wins a championship gotta have a nails bullpen, man. It's the most, and people saying, why are you spending so much on relievers, blah blah blah, because that's what games. That's what wins a championship. If you're in the World Series and you're playing the best team from the other league, no lead is safe.
Right.
4 runs, 5 runs, 10 runs, I don't care. No lead is safe. So that's why the bullpen is so important. And the Sox have really put so much time, effort, and resources into that. So I'm a happy fan. I couldn't be happier.
What I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know if you remember it all, it was really interesting to me to hear that the Sox might still be interested in Pedro Strop, because I don't believe the Cubs hung on to him. We had him. He wasn't healthy. He never got a chance to play in 2020. But there were rumors he was going to the South Side. Is that something you'd still look in to be interested in? He's still a top talent, when he's at his best, when he's fully healthy. I think he would honestly majorly help you guys, and I think it's something he'd be interested in as well. You saw Steve Cishek didn't work out. I was honestly pissed when he went to the Sox because I knew how solid it was going to be. For whatever reason, that didn't work out. If you want to touch base on that.
Yeah, I mean, the Cishek situation was weird. He had a couple, and with the 60-game season, it's definitely managed differently. Every single game is,
it matters.
Yeah, it's almost like, that August to September stretch in a regular season, everything's tight. And so he was put into a couple scenarios where he did poorly, but then after that, he was only put into scenarios where things were already going bad. So, he wasn't given a responsibility after a certain point. And so, that sucks. And you know what? It happens. You sign a guy, doesn't perform. It happens. I don't know if I would say Sox go out and sign Pedro Strop. It would probably be something to a minor league deal, just in case the guy gets injured or something. Which I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. But I think that the Sox right now need to focus on getting a DH, and if they could get a 4th starter just to stabilize the lineup. There's a lot of talk around Garrett Richards, which sure, whatever.
Wouldn't be bad.
Sure, right? He's a 4th starter, makes Cease start 5th, and then have Reynaldo and Kopech just kind of hang around and get opportunities to pitch. Sure, I'm fine with that. But getting a DH would be great. I would love that.
Yeah, my big thing, and as much as I would hate to see it, I would rather have him on the White Sox than in Washington, was Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, I thought was going to be, having. I mean, you added Adam Eaton, which is fine. You got another lefty out there. He's been on the team before, but he's coming back with somewhat toxicness because when he left, it wasn't on best of terms. He's coming back with a weaker ACL. And at an older age. It's been what since that trade? It's been 3-4 years.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. I mean, you really don't know how much you're going to get from him. I'm not saying, bona fide scrub. He's not going to be what he was. He's going to be solid, but he's not going to be at what I think you could get at the DH position or the outfield position, what you could get from Kyle Schwarber, which was only like a 1-year, $10 million deal. I think that he definitely would have took that if it was offered. And I'm only going to ask you a few more questions. But at first, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I don't really understand the Eaton signing, to be quite honest. It's like 1 year, $7 million, sure, whatever, but that's $7 million, and especially with Sox ownership, you do have to penny pinch. And so with Eaton, he's a contact hitter, he's a pest, and he brings a certain energy, sure. That's what they were telling us.
Right.
But, and he was good on the Sox. He was a great hitter, somewhat decent defender. But yeah, I don't understand it. Granted, the White Sox have not had a good right fielder in like a decade, so it's it's a vast improvement from what we've had, but it's not that great. So if he hit like 260, I would be happy, and if he just got along with everybody, I would be happy with it. Yeah, Kyle Schwarber. A lot of White Sox fans wanted that to happen. Kyle, you struggled and whatnot, but the year before he hit 30 bombs and 92 RBIs.
And had like a career high batting average. It was looking like Kyle was turning the tables.
Yeah, and you know what? The White Sox maybe went to him and said, hey, like, we want you to be our DH. And he could have said, no, I'm not interested in that.
Right.
He wants to play. He wants to field, right? So that could they could have had talks with him and said like, hey, you want to come play for us? And he could have straight up just said, no, I hate you guys. But
well, I mean, if we're going to be fair though, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're fine.
I strictly will never forget it. White Sox fans at guaranteed rate, 2016, about April, Kyle Schwarber tears his ACL and the whole place cheers, and they show it on the board. I remember it. The whole place cheered like they had just hit a walk-off home run. And honestly, I think it's one of those things not only Kyle will never forget, but Cubs fans will never forget. I moved past it because I know it's not everybody. It's not all the fans. But I think that's a big part of it. I think, he also did say he's taking it personally by the Cubs right now. So obviously, I think he remembers things like that. And that part was probably part of his decision making.
Yeah, I don't remember that. But, that's pretty terrible. You never root for somebody to get injured, even if they're on the other team. And a lot of it to me is that you're not facing the team at its best. If I want to win, I want to beat, the Cubs or Yankees or whoever when they're at their best and when they're at their fullest capabilities. And, seeing a guy get injured is just terrible. So yeah, sorry on behalf of White Sox fans everywhere, that's terrible.
Right.
We're usually good people, but
But and to get to what you said, beating us at our best, I want to jump into Crosstown and what that means for you this year, how excited you are for it. What makes me really excited for it nonetheless is, all these Cubs fans are going to say, well, they're not better than us because, we're rebuilding. No, I mean, at the end of the day, Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Hendricks, Davies, all of them, Ian Happ, you still have a great lineup. And you still have Contreras and Horner and all those guys as well. There is no excuse to me right now to where if the Sox cream us, I'll go, oh, well, it means nothing. I think it means everything to this team, and that team being the White Sox, that not only are they going to, basically take the reins, but they're going to grab them by the throat and they're going to kill them.
Yeah, and just the funny thing about all that is, I think Whites, I don't make up shit for the White Sox when they perform poorly. Right. You could say, oh, well, the sun was at an 85-degree angle and they couldn't see, or the weather was, lukewarm and they play better in warm weather. We could, speculate and come up with a bunch of excuses as to why a team sucks, but at the end of the day, they sucked and they lost, right? So, the White Sox did it for 12 years, right? Like we've been good at this. We've been good at sucking for 12 years. So I think the funny thing is that when the Cubs were really good, or in that span,
Yeah, that 3
the
year
White Sox,
span.
the White Sox always played well against them, and every single crosstown classic is competitive,
It was
and
a fight.
it's always good, no matter how bad each team is. So I'm excited for it. I've been to, I think, 6 crosstown games, and I love going to them. They're definitely, one of my favorite events. And 99% of Sox fans and Cubs fans are normal people.
Yeah.
But then that fringe where
It's
they
that
just,
1% that wants to kill you.
yeah, right?
It's like, okay.
I hate the Cubs. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but
Right.
also, like, they win. They were the better team, and I will admit that.
Right.
Like, they had good teams. They were good. It's fine. Don't kill me.
Right. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think my favorite crosstown, I don't know about you if you have any crosstown stories. My favorite one was the last year of Chris Sale. And I got to go to the Jake Arrieta versus Chris Sale matchup. And I was sitting next to these Sox fans, and there was just like a mass respect. And that's kind of like what changed everything. I was like 15 years old, 16 years old. At the time, I'm like, Sox fans are the devil. Sox fans are this. But when you actually sit down and have conversations about, making fun of, having a horrible right fielder and Jorge Soler,
Yeah.
which I don't even want to get into how good he is now. But,
Yeah.
if you have any stories like that and your experiences of crosstown.
Yeah. So I went to a crosstown game my freshman year, 2011. So a long time ago. It was freaking 10 years ago. That's crazy. But I actually went with like a girlfriend at the time, and she was a Cubs fan, and I was a Sox fan, whatever. And we had tickets right by the Cubs bullpen, like literally
Oh,
right.
when it used to be on the side?
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I was talking with some of the guys, and Jeff Schmarja was warming up in the pen for the Cubs, and I saw that I used to chew tobacco. I do not anymore, but I used to, and I was like, hey, you got a dip? And he said, yeah, and he just threw me his tin. He gave me his whole tin. Jeff Schmarja, yeah. So I was like, wow, that's pretty
That's
cool.
dope.
And then I think he got his ass kicked when he went to the game.
Oh,
If I
he definitely
remember.
did.
So we bonded over that and got to meet him. That was kind of cool. But other than that, just always a good time. I usually talk with Cubs fans, Sox fans, whoever. So
Nice. My last question for you today, I'm not trying to keep you too long, but
totally fine.
Fernando Tatis Jr. And then you knew I was going to talk about it. You knew I was going to bring it up. I'm
Yeah.
not going to talk about the trade, the James Shields. We all know what it is. We all understand it. Looking back on it, you couldn't have predicted that's what he was going to be. Nobody can say that. It's one of those things where, well, the Bears could have had Patrick Mahomes. Dude, shut up. Nobody knew. It was Deshaun Watson or nothing. Like, that's all I'll say. And my big thing right now is, but I want to talk to you about it. It's a super team. This looks like the show franchise mode. Like, it is insane. Like, they have, I mean, I don't expect you, Darvish, to be the same as he was because, as you pointed out, the NL Central trash. So he was playing the best of the worst. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, but you might see him in the World Series. And if you see him in the World Series, what do you think that atmosphere is going to be like? Do you think it's going to be toxic? Do you think it's going to be something like a rivalry brewing? And do you think you see that brewing for the next 5 to 6 years, forever how long you guys are going to be good?
Yeah, I mean, I would really love to have a story where it was like, and baseball hasn't had this in a while, where you had these like 2 or 3 dominant teams that were there every year. I guess you could say the Dodgers, Astros are like that.
A little bit, but it's a little toxic.
It's a little toxic, one, because of the Astros scandal, and two, it's like the Dodgers have been good for like 10 years, and now they finally won a World Series. It was almost like exhausting. We're like, oh, Jesus Christ, like finally.
Like, just do it, dude.
Yeah, just freaking win a World Series, dude. And they did. But like, I would love that. I would love if it was like White Sox, Padres, meeting the World Series, and this like historic, very meta matchup of two just stacked baseball teams. And we all love a good rivalry. Nobody likes, in my opinion, like, baseball players shake your hand, whatever. But we like it when it's intense.
Right. We like it when it's nasty.
We like it when it's nasty. We like it when they want to kill each other. And I would love for the Padres and the Sox to develop that. I think the Tatis trade, people say like, oh, like how could they do this? What a freaking terrible trade. Everybody's a good GM in hindsight.
I
But
call them the Facebook GMs.
Facebook GMs, man, like they know everything, but it's like at the time, not one complaint. Nobody even knew who Fernando Tatis Jr. was.
I had no idea.
No, nobody knew a clue. They said 19-year-old kid, whatever. We get James Shields, and same thing with like the Darvish trade.
Right.
You win a bunch of 19
could be special.
But at the end of the day, people also really severely underestimate how good the Padres are at developing talent. Right. You got this 19-year-old kid, steadily developed him to be what he is today.
Exactly.
He could have sucked on the White Sox because their development isn't that great.
Right. You see Tim Anderson's defense. It's been how many years now? It's still not even close to being what it should be if he was on the Padres, the Cubs, or something like that.
Exactly. So it's like you can't really be upset about these things. Darvish in the World Series would be cool. He's been there before. He's gotten rocked, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a little iffy with that, though, just because of what happened with Houston. I really don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I like Darvish. I like him a lot, and I've always liked him ever since he came in with Texas. And he's funny on Twitter. So
Dude, he's did you see what he said to Victor Caratini?
No, what did he say?
Oh my God, he texted him and said, "Heard you just got cut by the Cubs," and then Victor was like, "You're coming with."
And Caratini's a good pickup for them too. He's a good, solid catcher. So you can't look. There's like 5 catchers that are good in the MLB, and he's not a top 5 catcher, but in terms of
he'll get it done.
Yeah, like he'll get the job done, which is all you could ask.
And my big thing with Fernando, and it's what I really wanted to see from the Cubs, it reminded me of Eloy. It reminded me so much because Eloy took that to heart. And at first, I thought it was like I was mad about it. And now I just kind of feel bad because every time he plays the Cubs, it's like he mentions that his heart is broken, that he got traded. And I didn't realize that people take it personally. So personally, the way I see Fernando, the way I've watched him and his personality and the way he goes about things, I think he's definitely, whether he actually takes it to heart or not, he's going to act like it is just to put on a show, put on a performance, have that mentality of let's just kill these guys. And I think it's going to be something really interesting moving forward.
I'd love to watch 3-2 count, bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, down by 3. Fernando Tatis is up. Lucas Giolito's throwing a freaking whatever, and it's a matchup of the century, and then Lucas Giolito just wipes him out with a slider. Game over. Sox win the World Series. Like it's you can't write a better story. So I really hope that we get to a point where we can say like, wow, that was freaking crazy.
Right.
So yeah.
But it's gonna be so. My last question for you though is really, and it ties into that, expectations right now. Mick Bucaro, 2021 Sox. Is it World Series championship or bust, or is it World Series or bust? Because I can understand going and not winning, but it's the first. I'm calling this the first year. Last year I really don't count it for being like the first year out of the rebuild, because it still felt like somewhat of a rebuild. Everybody's not here yet. Jared Kelly isn't even here yet. So I think we're far from being set in stone of what this lineup's going to look like. What are the expectations moving forward, win percentage wise, and just what you want from everybody?
For me, and I think for a lot of White Sox fans, is we want the World Series. We want to be there. And, we want to be a part of the conversation. And, the media and stuff has been kind of rumbling around, talk is talk, but I think that a lot of us want to walk the walk. It's been a long time, and we want to be one of those teams that other teams fear. I think the worst thing would be for us to kind of be like the Braves, where they're in this perennial like NLCS type team, and they've just whatever. But I want to be there, and I want to make a statement this year. So I think it would be a disappointing season. It would be disappointing if we did not make the World Series. Not necessarily win it. We have to make it. If we don't do that, I'm going to be disappointed. So
definitely. Well, thank you for being on the show today. It means the world, Mick. Soxtober baseball is hopefully back. Everything looks bright. I couldn't picture 3 guys missing this year and them still not missing the playoffs. I'm really excited for you, brother. Thank you for being on the show, and I can't wait to have you back in the middle of baseball season.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man.
See you later.